At a time when the headlines were dominated by the death of a princess and the birth of a clone sheep named Dolly, the world was about to learn of a medical breakthrough in cancer treatment.
On the health report tonight, there's some encouraging news about cancer, which is unusual.
The Food and Drug Administration has approved a genetically engineered drug to treat
The FDA says that the drug Rituxan has an excellent success rate in
Studies show it shrinks tumors by finding and attacking the cancer cells.
Unlike chemotherapy and its side effects, this new treatment is non-toxic.
Rituxan is the first drug in a decade to be approved for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Over 5 years in the making and facing more than its share of skeptics, Rituxan looked destined to be forgotten before it could make a difference. Were it not for the collaboration of two unknowing partners, this medical miracle may not have made it out of the lab.
For a while there, I would say in the early 90s, if you were to go to most large pharmaceutical companies working in oncology and say, look, I got a new drug that's going to be used to treat B-cell lymphoma, they would say, out of here. Too small of a market, who cares? We want drugs that you can treat lung cancer and breast cancer and prostate cancer and colon cancer and all that stuff. And nobody would have thought that the opportunity commercially was that good.
We weren't able to get a lot of financial help for B-cell lymphoma. At the time, no one felt that there was a market for B-cell lymphoma. It was too small. So we began to try to tap other sources, and the big pharmaceutical companies weren't interested in a small drug like that. They were interested in something which had a large market.
Most people in the biotech industry and even in the academic community felt monoclonal antibodies would not ever prove out as therapies.
We had at least 2 strikes against us walking in the door. 1, it was lymphoma. 2, it was antibodies. 3, they would soon learn customized antibodies, so 3 strikes and we're out, right?
The wrong disease, the wrong strategy, the wrong business model, they were not interested.
Rewind just 2 years to 1995, when a famous running back didn't have to run anymore, and a multi-billionaire released a software program that would revolutionize computing around the world. In California, a struggling biotech company was fighting to stay in business.
It was not evident in 1995 how close we came to folding up.
We were really struggling. You know, we started running out of money. The stock was down at somewhere around $2 a share.
I happened to meet by chance a fellow by the name of David Ebersman, who was a business developer type from Genentech, just at a luncheon one day at a casual meeting. And when we figured out what each other did, he said, "Oh, well, that's IDEC." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, we passed on that. We decided not to invest in that project." I said, "Well, I think you made a mistake."
I mean, I remember going to Genentech and them telling us, actually, Bill Rester was with me, and them telling us, well, we're really not that interested in cancer, and we're really not that interested in monoclonal antibodies. In fact, go look at the history of Genentech. They didn't work on antibodies. They worked on recombinant proteins, other kinds of recombinant proteins. They certainly weren't interested in cancer.
And he said, "Well, can I bring my bosses by to talk to you?" And they came here, and we sat, and I showed them the data. And shortly thereafter, there was a deal struck between IDEC and Genentech. And that deal resulted in saving IDEC, but it also resulted in saving Genentech.
Genentech deal, they may not have done that had they been in a better financial straits and a better time in history. However, the deals worked out pretty darn good.
We were within 3 months of bankruptcy. It wasn't from a position of strength that we did the deal, right? But it was the best deal that we had on the table.
And I think it's all the more remarkable from a business success point of view because that was a time when Genentech needed a win too.
The FDA's approval of Rituxan was the beginning of a strong growth cycle for both companies. In 1998, Rituxan would be approved in the European Union under the name Mabthera. Later, the FDA would approve Rituxan for expanded uses, and the drug would be well on its way to being a billion-dollar seller.
Both companies benefited beautifully, and I think beyond the expectations of all of us who were involved in that at the time.
Companies live and die by what they do early on. That I'm sure of. Okay? If you pick the wrong stuff, if you screw up early on in major ways, you're dead. So I would say, again, it's what I told you. We picked a good target disease to work on, a good idea. Let's make antibodies to lymphoma, and then let's go use that in maybe autoimmune disease if you can. And that idea, that fundamental principle, was a really good idea.
Interestingly, the success of Rituxan has done so much for Genentech. First of all, financial success, and it became a billion-dollar drug for the company. And it also, I think, changed the mentality of the company toward monoclonal antibodies. And then it did collaborations with other companies and now has approval for several of them.
On the morning of September 11, 2001, an FDA advisory board was meeting in Rockville, Maryland, just 15 miles from the Pentagon. In the shadow of that day's events, the advisory board gave a unanimous recommendation to approve IDEC's new cancer drug, Zevlin. Later that same year, IDEC would break ground on a new 60-acre manufacturing plant in Oceanside, California. The plant would cost more than $400 million and was to be completed in 2004. In 2005, IDEC would merge with industry leader Biogen to form Biogen IDEC. And in an ironic turn of events, Genentech would come back into the picture to purchase the Oceanside facility for the manufacture of Avastin, one of Genentech's newest monoclonals used to treat colorectal cancer. The past 10 years were just a brief chapter in the history of these companies. But it was what happened during those 10 years that shaped what these companies are today and what they will become tomorrow.